Jai Hind everyone. I am Achintya Pandey, as Assistant Professor in Department of Information Technology at Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. Today, I will explore object-oriented language features. In my previous video of object-oriented system design, we have discussed the concept of object-oriented, basically object class inheritance, polymorphism, data binding, um, function overriding, function overloading, and all that. In my second video lectures, I have discussed the UML, Unified Modeling Language, and today I will explore the concept of what are the object-oriented language features. Okay, so basically, object-oriented language are categorized into two broad category. One is object-based language and second one is object-oriented language. Like object-based language, like ADA is object-based, and object-oriented means you can say Java and all is object-oriented. Okay, so depending on the feature supported, the programs that support object-oriented programming concept, they could be classified into two broad category. One is object-based programming language and second one object-oriented programming language. So the language which support object-based is ADA programming, and the language which we generally use that support the object-oriented programming is C++, Java, right? So in both the object-based or object-oriented language, the feature which support is data abstraction, polymorphism. Okay, both features are common in that. Object-oriented is extended of object-based. So there are some more features which been added in the object-oriented. That's why object-oriented become the most popular and the more flexible, you can say, because in that everything could be perceived based on the object, and so designing and implementing into the language, okay, into implementation is quite easy and effective. Okay, so object-based programming language, these support programming the objects, but it doesn't support inheritance and dynamic binding. Like ADA is a language that doesn't support inheritance as well as dynamic binding. While object-oriented programming language, they consist all the feature of object-based, like object class plus inheritance and dynamic binding. Okay, so they support all data abstraction. Object-oriented programming language, they support all following feature like abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. Abstraction is you can say sometime encapsulation. So data abstraction means is an act of representing the essential feature without including the background detail, like how the operation gets implemented, that doesn't matter. This becomes the abstract, like hidden. Okay, so the feature is called encapsulation, like how you can wrap the data and function together, which is here called class. So this feature is called encapsulations. Inheritance, that is the one of the important features of object-oriented programming language, by which we can reuse the code. Okay, so the idea of reusability of code means how we can avoid rewriting of the code that could be done by the inheritance. So that is very, very important feature of object-oriented programming language. And polymorphism, how one thing could have different implementations depending on the context, right? Could be used. So the concept of polymorphism is generally implemented with the technique function overloading, okay, or operator overloading. So one function, same function name, and would have different code that comes under the polymorphism, okay. So here in today, I will mainly exploring the main feature, you can say, inheritance. So today in my today's talk, I will be exploring more about the inheritance. That is the idea of reusability. Okay, how we could reuse. So what is inheritance? Inheritance is basically how we can use the data and function in new classes. Inheritance is basically the idea of can we reuse something in later, okay, like if we consider the definition, inheritance means you can inherit the property of base class. Suppose in object oriented programming, here we consider so many objects, or we create different class, okay. So if tomorrow something new comes, so what we do, we can just create a new class, and that new class will inherit the previous classes. Ultimately they can inherit the data and function, I mean data and even the mechanism implementation of existing classes, right? So inheritance is the capability of a class to derive property and characteristics from another class, right? So it is a feature, or you can say process, in which new classes are created from the existing classes. The new class created is called derived class, or you can say child class, okay? The existing class is known as the base class or parent class. The derived class now is said to be inherited from the base class. Suppose if we have a class contain what? Data and functions, okay. So the function operate on the data. So if there is a class, say it is base class, now we are going to create a derived class. So derived class is going to inherit the property of base class. How we will create, what data, how many, what type of function could be inherited. Inherited means all the data and function become the member of that new class, which is a subclass or sometimes called derived class, right? So the base class, and when we say derived class inherit the base class, it means the derived class inherit all the property of the base class. Inheriting all the property of the base class means we can inherit inherit the all the feature and data, means the data and function of base class can also become the member of the derived class. That's what's the real meaning, okay. So subclass is going to inherit the property from another class, or sometimes it is called derived class, okay. Superclass or base class, the class whose property are inherited by a subclass, you can define it as a base class. Like in example, suppose we have created a vehicle class, okay, and have some mechanism, or you can say some function, fuel amount, capacity, apply brakes. So this vehicle class can further be created into some new class, like this bus class, car class, truck class, okay. So bus will is the class bus is going to inherit all the property of vehicle class. Class car can inherit all the property of vehicle class, but there may be some features which car will have its own, right, and bus it is not have, like, okay, truck it has its own features. So you can add the exclusive functionality of car in this derived class, car class. So the exclusive are the properties, are the features, are the mechanism which is just belong to, which is only belong or exclusively belong to this particular derived class, can be implemented in this subclass, right? And all the common features, all the common implementation, they could be taken only from the vehicle class. Even the bus could be categorized into so many bus classes. Okay, so using inheritance, we have to write the function only one time instead of 3 times, as we have inherited the rest of 3 class. Okay, these function, they all can become the function of bus, car, and truck. So we need not write all these function into again bus or car or truck. We would only write one time. Okay, we can simply reuse all the code which is written in parent class or here vehicle class. Another example you can take like a grandparent, parent, and child. Okay, so parent inherit the property of grandparent, child inherit the property of parent, and ultimately they inherit the property of grandparent. So inheritance can be of different types, like single level inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level, hybrid, hierarchical, and all. Okay, so how the inheritance is going to, of different type, here we will explore. So in my today's lecture, we have implemented or we will show some code implemented in C++. You can write the same in Java also. There is just little syntax difference, so you can write in that also. So implementing inheritance in C++, for creating a subclass that is inherited from the base class, we have to follow the below syntax. First, how any class is created, we just simply write like a class. If you want to just create any class, for example, we want to create a class, suppose we just going to create a class A, right? So we can write class A, okay, and this could have data, int, float, character, and there could be some function like we can have function like ABC. We could have some another function, say f function. Okay, so and then semicolon. This is the syntax of creating a class. Suppose if we going to create a derived class, then we would have to write say class B and colon public A. Public A. This is the syntax, and again you can write the data and even function of this new class. Okay, so the syntax is just you have to use the keyword class and the name of derived class, then we have to use the colon, and then you have to include the name of base class, and this access is specified. This could be how you are going to access the member of this base class. So we would have to specify some access is specified, and this could be private, public. There are 3 mainly specified: private, public, protected. So depending on what data, how we are going to inherit the features of base class, we could use private, public, and protected mode. So basically there are 3 mode. We can take it as a access is specifier. One is private, second is public, and third one is protected. They are with the little difference. Okay, for example, you can see here class ABC means this is the derived class, or you can say new class, colon private XYZ means this is the base class, or you can say parent class. So the parent class is going to privately inherited. So this is called private derivation. Next is, say we have created a class ABC and you are going to inherit XYZ as a publicly, okay, means public XYZ, okay. So XYZ is base class, ABC is become the derived or new class, okay. So we can take the, code or data of this base class into this new or derived class, depending on what we require. Ultimately, that data or function become the, member of this ABC, depending on what access specifier is used here. Suppose if you have used private, then you cannot access the private or even the public data, even the private data. Private is already, if we are just going to, deriving private derivation, so the public and protected mode of base class also become the private data of this ABC class, right? So we will see what exactly what data could become the member and in which mode it becomes, like whether it becomes in private member of this new class, or it becomes the public member of new class, or it becomes the protected member. If we do not use any private, public or protected, then it by default becomes the private derivations. If you do not specify any private, public or protected, means we are going to derive base class as a in private mode. Okay. So you can see here, when a base class is privately inherited, right? We are going to inherit privately by the derived class. Public member of the base class become the private member of the derived class, and therefore the public member of base class can only be accessed by the member function of the derived class. Since we already know that we cannot access private data by creating the object of that class. Private data of any class can be accessed only by the member function of that class, and that's why data hiding is there. Okay, the private data can never be accessed directly by the object of that class. So private data can only be accessed by the member function of that class only, right? So if base class is going to privately inherited, so even the public, protected and all these kind of mode data of base class become the private data, or you can say as a member variable in private mode in this derived class. Okay. So they are inaccessible to the object of the derived class. On the other hand, when the base class is publicly inherited by the derived class, public member of the base class also become the public member of the derived class. Therefore, the public member of the base class are accessible by the object of the derived class. Okay. So if it is if base class is publicly inherited, then even the public and protected data of this public or protected data of the base class become the public or protected in derived class also. So if it is public or protected data of this derived class too, so that data could also be accessed by the object of that class. Okay, so this is one thing. So again, the same thing been written here. Now one thing, private data of any class cannot be accessed by the object of that class, right? Public data can be accessed, or even the function, not data. Again, private data or private function cannot be accessed by the object of that class. One thing. Public data or even public function means the data. There are only two things: data and function. That data could be private, public, or protected. The function could also be private, public, or protected. But if the data or function are in private mode, they can only access by the member function of that class, right? Now, if base class having even public, private, protected, whatever the data is, but if that base class is inherited privately, means we write class XYZ colon private ABC, okay? So even the public or protected data of base class become the private data of the derived class. So in the derived class, that data cannot be accessed by the object of that derived class. That's all. So this is what we have just shown in the form of inheritance. I mean how this could become. Suppose base class member access specifier public, protected, private, okay, and type of inheritance public. So the data becomes like this, okay. But if the base class access is private, then they cannot be access, okay. Now these all are the some common or general type of inheritance, okay. The data and function could be inherited in different way, okay. So there are single level inheritance, multi-level inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and hybrid inheritance. So if there is just one base class, only one base class, okay, so that could come under the category single inheritance. Like here, suppose A class and B class. So B is going to inherit the property of A. So this becomes only the single inheritance. In single inheritance, a class is allowed to inherit from only one class. That is, one subclass is inherited by one base class. Okay. So here B inherit just one class A. Okay. So again, what is the meaning of inheriting A? It ultimately become not all the data, excluding private data. Excluding private data, the data and function which is public or protected of A also become the data and function of class B. Means they all become the member of B class, excluding private data or function, right? Any class, either base class or derived class, they have only two things. One is data, means variables. Second is functions. Both data and function could be in private and public mode, okay. But excluding private data or function, rest data and function, means the data and function which is in public are protected, becomes the member of B2. That's what the meaning is. Means if it becomes the member of B, you can use simply that data or function. Ultimately meaning you can reuse all those, even data and mechanism in B. There is no need to write all those implementation in B. So this is the beauty of inheritance. And further, this is just the syntax. This is the A class, and this is the normal or simple implementation of single inheritance. Class B colon public A means you are going to inherit the A class in a public. So you have inherited here, inherited base class here in public mode, means the public and protected data of A, even function of A, also become the member of class B as in public or protected mode. A private data cannot be going to inherit into the B. So the private data of any class can never be inherited, or private data and even function can never be inherited, means they can never become the member of the derived class. That is one thing. This is simple program, like we have designed vehicle, bus and all. So this is the base class. We have simply used one function here, a vehicle, and that function could be reused in car or bus or all that, depending on how you going to inherit the base class, right? So this is what the this inheritance basically provide the idea of reusability. You can reuse the features of existing class, so you can avoid the rewriting of the code whenever it is required. Now, second type of category is multiple inheritance. Multiple, if a class has more than one base class, then this category of inheritance is called multiple inheritance. Like here you can see here class A, they are going, this particular class A is going to inherit the property of B, even the property of C. So if a class is going to inherit more than one base class, then this type of inheritance, they could come under the category multiple inheritance. Okay. Okay. And what is the syntax? You can simply write, there is already written the definition of class B and C, how you could write in C++, so or even Java. So you have simply write class A colon public class B public class C. So this is the implementation way. Here you can see class A, this is the derived class, and this derived class is going to inherit the property of B comma property of C. So this comes under the multiple inheritance. Multi-level inheritance means, like in example we can see parent inherit the property of grandparent. Similarly, child inherits the property of parent and ultimately the property of grandparent. So grandparent, parent and child, they come under the category multi-level inheritance. This is the syntax here. Class B is going to inherit the property of C, and class A is going to inherit the B. So A is going to inherit B, B is ultimately inheriting C, means A is going to inherit B as well as C. Or you can, in other way, you can say A ultimately inherit the property of C, depending on these access specifier. Hierarchical inheritance, like we see in the data structure tree, right? So hierarchical means just like as a tree. So class B is going to inherit class G. Here class C is also going to inherit class G, and so on. So these base class, these derived class, subsequent derived class or descended derived class is just inherited the upper classes. So if the inheritance is just like as a tree, this comes under the hierarchical inheritance. And in the same way, you can write the code, right? So this is the implementations or syntax part of this. In a hybrid, or you can say virtual inheritance, if a inheritance is going to exhibit more than one property, right? Like would have multi-level, like see here, this class E is going to inherit the property F and G. So here is multiple inheritance, more than one base class, and here we can see this is the multi-level. So if inheritance, if there is more than one inheritance in some scenario, then this comes under the hybrid inheritance. So this is all about the inheritance, or one of the important feature of object oriented programming language, that is the concept of idea of reusability. That's all. Thank you.